Hello friends and welcome back to the channel. It's me, Maile, and I know, long time no see in terms of the last time you saw me talk about books. It's because I've been in the biggest book slump of my entire life, and I've only picked up a handful of books since my last video in February. So we're going to talk about all those books and a list of really good books I'm excited to dive into on my TBR today. But before we get into all that, let me remind you that we do lots of fun things on this channel. Yes, book content, although that has been lacking this year, but also theater content, which has been really intense the past couple of months because Eric and I have been directing Heathers the musical. Also around the house DIY type projects and cleaning, grocery hauls, shopping videos, around the house vlogs of just our daily life and travel. So if you're interested in any of that and you haven't subscribed yet, what the heck are you doing? Subscribe. Come on, do it. All right, now that you've done that, let me give you a little breakdown of all the things we're going to talk about today. And yes, I do have my coffee because I'm coming off a little bit of sickness, as you can probably tell. I said in February, which January and February were some of the best reading months of my life. I found so many 4 and 5-star books. So go check out those videos if you want to see some really good recommendations. And I said in those videos that I was going to do a recap every single month of books that I had read. But here's the kicker. Some months since February, I haven't even read one book. It's been like an exorbitantly crazy year, like more crazy than normal for us. And I just books have just been off my radar, which is crazy because I'm such a reader. I love books so much, and they're typically a pretty constant part of my life, regardless of how busy I am. I make time to read, or at least to listen to audiobooks as I'm doing something else. But man, that has just been a struggle this year. I have read some really good books that I've wanted to sit down and talk to you guys about. We're going to talk about those today, and then at the end, if you're interested, I will talk about some books that have been on my TBR, some for months that I just haven't gotten to yet that I'm really excited about. I've got my handy dandy little list here of all of the books that I've read. Let's just jump right into it, okay? The first book on this list, which I do not know why, I was intrigued by because a booktuber that I really like, Carrie Can Read is her channel. She recommended this, and her recommendations to me are kind of hit or miss. Sometimes she recommends weird books that I don't like, but a lot of the times she recommends really good books that I do like. And this one sounded interesting and fun and just silly. It's called When a Scot Ties the Knot. Basically, romance, Outlander-esque type vibes. Truly could not tell you any plot details of this book, other than I remember it being kind of fluffy and silly, funny. I think the reason that I decided to pick it up from her recommendation is she talked about how witty this author's writing was. I think it's Tessa Dare. Apparently she has a lot of really famous romance books, and I really liked her characterization. If I'm remembering right, she made the heroine of the story kind of weird and quirky and kind of gave me Anna vibes from Frozen. And for some reason I think it's man, I really should have looked up the plot of this before I talked, but I don't remember. It's a forced marriage maybe, I don't know. All I know is there's a Scottish man in it, and it was pretty good. I think I gave it 3 stars. So starting off real strong in this book recommendations video where I can't even remember the plot of the books I'm recommending. Anyway, it was a 3-star, fun, fluffy read. If you want to just turn your brain off for a little bit, great, do it. All right, next was a 4-star read. So during 75 Hard, which Eric and I did from March to May this year, we had to read 10 pages of a nonfiction book every day. And so my 75 Hard girl, BFF, through the whole thing was Carol Burnett, because I read all of her books. In fact, I think they're, oh, you can't see them, they're a shelf above, but I read every single one of her books and absolutely loved most of them. This one is called Carrie and Me. It's about, she has 3 daughters, and one of them died of crazy horrible cancer when she was in her late 30s, early 40s, and it's a very thrown together time capsule almost, it feels of what that journey was and how Carol supported her daughter Carrie through her I think it was lung cancer, actually. Yeah, it was lung cancer, now that I'm remembering, her lung cancer diagnosis and ultimately her passing. And it's shared through little snippets of communication that they had over email or letters they would write to each other, and then little anecdotes that Carol would add in about childhood stories and stories about Carrie and the kind of person that she was. And her daughter was a very quirky person, clearly a very caring person a true like artist. She and her daughter wrote a play together that premiered on Broadway after her daughter's death, and it was just a really unique read because of the formatting of it, but also like very like heart-wrenching, kind of like nostalgic feelings about it, childhood vibes. Like, it was just a very unique, interesting book, super short read too, and just really endearing to see like Carol's relationship with her daughter throughout her whole life up until her death. Like, it was such a sad story to read, but really cool, because I feel like what made it unique was that she really highlighted who her daughter was. Like, it wasn't an in memoriam, you know, she was the most perfect person ever. Like, she really like dug down deep into all the layers of who her daughter was as a person all throughout her life. She dealt with drug issues as a teenager, and she talked very openly about that. It just it was a very compelling book, a really cool story. I loved it. I gave it 4 stars. So then I read one of my favorite books of the year so far. It's called The Favorites by Lynn Fargo. Lynn? Is that right? Lane Fargo. This book was so good. It was one of those books that you pick up and you do not want to put down, okay? It was so fast-paced, so dramatic, but like not in an over-the-top, roll your eyes way. Like, it sucks you in completely. It's about, essentially, it's a Wuthering Heights retelling, and I'm not so sure that most people who talk about this on BookTube, because it was a totally like viral like book talk to book, everybody read it. Pretty sure a lot of people, it went over their heads that it was a Wuthering Heights retelling because they've never read Wuthering Heights, which I love. Wuthering Heights, I read that multiple times in high school. Love it. But it's a retelling through the lens of modern day ice skaters who try to become pro, and craziness ensues. I just loved it so much, especially as a Wuthering Heights fan. Like, I can see how if you know nothing about Wuthering Heights, you would still totally be sucked in and love this book just for like the drama of it all. But knowing the story of Wuthering Heights so closely and seeing all the connections and all the mirroring that was weaved throughout this book was just so freaking cool, and like made me chuckle and like made me feel like I was in on the joke. I don't know, I just loved it. It was such a clever retelling. Characters were very dynamic. It's also told in kind of a format a la Daisy Jones and the Six, which is one of my all-time favorite books. It has portions of the book that are interview-like Daisy Jones and the Six. It was so freaking good. I loved it so much. I gave it 5 stars. Then I read a book called How to Solve Your Own Murder by Kristen Perrin, I think, and it was good. It drew me in because of the cover. I thought the cover was so pretty. I am not like a big murder mystery person, but I occasionally will pick one up, and I liked this one. I remember it being kind of run-of-the-mill. Like, I saw the ending coming pretty easily, and it was good. The story definitely moved, and I was never bored, but I was never like throw the book shocked kind of vibes, you know? It's about a woman who essentially knows that she's going to be murdered her whole life or something. This is off the top of my memory. And she's trying to solve her own murder, but then she turns up murdered. She's like this old lady, and her great niece maybe is the one that has to solve her murder. And it's very interesting because you see like all the breadcrumbs and all the stuff that her great aunt had figured out about her murder and her death, and she couldn't solve it though. And then the solving in the end was pretty like far-fetched, I thought, but also kind of clever. And it was a good read, especially if you like murder mystery. I think you'll really like it. It's just not my genre of choice, so I liked this book. I didn't love it. I gave it 3 stars. Okie dokie. Then I read another Carol Burnett book, and this is like sort of in order, but not really in order. I read One More Time, which is one of my all-time favorite books I have ever read. It is Carol Burnett's like true memoir of her early childhood and the very start of her career. You guys, it's one of the most compelling stories I've ever read in my entire life. She comes from a broken home. She had a wonderful father and a wonderful mother who both suffered from alcoholism and financial issues, and she was essentially raised by her grandmother, her nanny, and her nanny was a quirky, it seems like Mormon or some like kind of extreme religion, but like very much not active, but still holding to some weird like beliefs and practices, and had a strange influence on who she was as a person. So Carol lived with her nanny and her mother sometimes and her little sister, and her dad would occasionally come to visit, and he was like this idol in her brain. Her family story, her family dynamics were so incredibly unique. Her childhood stories, her upbringing were so full of just like humor and heart and heartbreak and just so endearing, so raw, so like emotional. It's a roller coaster of emotions. It's so relatable. It's so raw and so real, so vulnerable. It's incredible. Like, it is one of the best memoirs I've ever read. It's one of the best books I've ever read, period. And I read a lot of memoirs, okay? This is an unforgettable one. I loved it so much. And I really liked the details that toward the end of the memoir about once she grew up and she left home and pursued her career on Broadway and then ultimately in TV, and the trials and tribulations of that and what that was like and how different that process is, you know, compared to now today, which I happen to know about because my sister's going through it. It's just so fascinating. Like, she lived in essentially a boarding house for women in the arts, and she has such incredible stories. Like, I cannot recommend this book enough. Everyone should read it. It was like a 6-star read for me. Absolutely loved it. The next book I read was also another Carol Burnett. I told you I made it through her entire bibliography. That's not the right word. Is that the right word? I don't know. Who knows? I can't really breathe, so I'm not gonna think about it too much. It's called This Time Together, and it's like just little stories and anecdotes from specifically her time on the Carol Burnett show. And it was cute. I liked it. It was fluffy, pretty surface level, kind of cheesy, kind of looking back with rose-colored glasses, it felt a little bit like, but I enjoyed reading it. I gave it, I think, 3 stars. Wasn't my favorite of her books, probably my least favorite of her books. But I did enjoy the stories. I laughed out loud in some of them. Like, a lot of them I had heard before, because she does a lot of repeat stories from her previous books that I had also read. So I think this one is skippable for sure if you're trying to read the whole catalog of her books. But I also I did enjoy it, and it was a nice escape, so I gave it 3 stars. Oh my gosh. Then I read I told you I read a lot of memoirs, even some that aren't so good. I read I'll Never Change My Name, which is Val Schmirkovsky's book, and he is a pro on Dancing with the Stars. He's a professional ballroom dancer from Russia, but also from Ukraine. I love him. First of all, he's one of my favorite pros. I love him. I love his wife, Jenna. This book was really good in the beginning. I really enjoyed hearing about his upbringing in the Ukraine and then in Russia, and how his family immigrated to America and how they kind of built themselves up from level 0 and established a ballroom dancing career and the ballroom dancing competitions. I loved learning about all that. I will say, this book was not well written. And I get, like, English is very much his second language or third language, honestly. But anyway, it was not well written. It felt like it was maybe independently published and he didn't work with a super good editor, because it really just felt like stream of consciousness thoughts onto paper. There was a lot of like self-promotion and kind of like arrogant vibes about him, which that's a lot of men in ballroom dancing. And you know, that's kind of how they have to be, but it didn't translate as charming as he typically translates. It translated more as like arrogance, and I didn't like that. So I wouldn't necessarily recommend this book. I finished it because I was like almost done with it, and I was like, might as well, but I didn't love it. I gotta be honest, I didn't love it. Sorry, Val. Okay, next I read this book that was so weird. I still think about this book sometimes and I'm like, ugh, I don't know. It's called Into the Jungle, and it's about a woman who basically gets hoodwinked into traveling abroad. I can't even remember where, like some very like remote area where there's a jungle super close by, under the guise of like hiring her to be an English tutor. And then she gets there and there's no job, and it was all like, you know, rigged to get money from her or whatever. So she gets stuck there. So she has to find a job. She has to establish a place to live. That's all like the very beginning of the book. But then she falls in love with this guy, and this guy lives in this village but is originally from the jungle, like, and his whole family still lives in like this tribe in the middle of the jungle. One of his like nieces or nephews gets lost or eaten by a tiger. No, that's what it is. Oh my gosh, what a weird freaking plot of a book. His nephew gets eaten by a tiger, so he has to go back and help his family hunt and kill the tiger. And she goes with him for some reason to the jungle. So then she gets pregnant, and she's pregnant in the jungle, and there's like this insane mysticism about it all, and like then there are poachers that come in and like try to invade the village. It is a minefield of a book, I will tell you what. It is the strangest book. The writing was weird. It just kind of felt like woo-woo, mystic, kind of like witchy, but like negative witchy vibes. Like, I don't know. I just felt kind of weird reading this book. I didn't love it. I didn't really see the point of it at the end. And the end was so horrible. Like, oh, I hated the ending. It was so sad. If that sounds good to you, you would probably like it. I just didn't love it. But I think it's a good book. So I think I gave it 3 stars. Then I read one of my favorite books I've read all year. And a lot of people have been reading this. So don't be surprised when I say Broken Country, okay? Yes, it is freaking amazing. It is so, so good. It is a romance/murder mystery, and it is incredible. It's about a woman who is married to like the perfect husband. They are out on a farm and work really hard and have a son, and their son dies, and her high school sweetheart comes back into town after years and years away and kind of throws a wrench in her whole life. And it's kind of a war between her husband and her high school sweetheart, and they're both good men that she loves, and she's very torn about what to do, and all while trying to grapple with her son's death. And I can't really describe it to you more than that, other than just trust me and freaking read it, because it's so good. So, so, so good. I gave it 5 stars. Oh my gosh, I just looked at my list and I'm pretty sure I told you wrong on the Carol Burnett books. I did. That's because they're basically the same book, I'll tell you what. In Such Good Company is the last Carol Burnett book that I read. That's her book that's specifically about her time only on the Carol Burnett show. This Time Together, the one I just talked about earlier, thinking it was the Carol Burnett show book, was actually just her memoir after her last memoir, one about her childhood and her upbringing that was so incredible. It basically just like takes off from where that one ended and highlights her career through stories and fun anecdotes. That one I did not like as much as I liked In Such Good Company. I think what I would recommend is definitely read, out of her 4 books, definitely read One More Time. That's her like true, gritty, vulnerable, raw memoir, right, of her childhood. Such a compelling story. Then there's Carrie and Me, which is her book about the process of going through her daughter's lung cancer diagnosis and reminiscing on who her daughter was as the person. I love both of those. Definitely both worth the read. Then you have In Such Good Company, which is her detailing her time on the Carol Burnett show. And then you have This Time Together, which is basically the rest of her career. So out of the 4, I think definitely the first 2, absolutely you should read. The second 2, choose one. If you're more interested in her career as a whole, read This Time Together. If you're more interested in her time only on the Carol Burnett show, read In Such Good Company. You don't need to read them both, okay? Personally, I would recommend the one that's just about the Carol Burnett show, because I thought that one was a little bit better. Now that I've thoroughly confused you with Carol Burnett's full discography, I love how I've thought of 3 different words to fit the whole vibe of Carol Burnett's books, and I'm not even sure if any of one of them I've used are correct, but anyway. Oh, this one was so freaking good. I loved this book. Okay, this sent me down a smooth rabbit hole. Smooth, I don't know what that's about. I read the book called Daughter of Gloria Vale. It's by Lilia Tarawa. So, just do a quick little Google on Gloria Vale in New Zealand, and you'll discover one of the craziest cults you've ever heard about. This is a joyful, Jesus-centered, crazy commune where they dress like pilgrims and everyone has to be super happy all the time, and there are so many intense, insane rules. It's extremely religious. We're talking child brides, all the things, okay? All the extreme religious cult checklist. Gloria Vale's got it all. It's insane, okay? Insane. And this book is written by one of the smartest women I think I've ever seen. A girl who grew up, who lived on Gloria Vale her entire life. In fact, I think she's like granddaughter of the founding guy. She details so much of what the cult was like, what it was like growing up. She details when she started questioning things and what happened because she questioned things, and then ultimately her decision to leave and what that was like. And oh my gosh, it was such a compelling book. just led me down a full rabbit hole of like learning everything there is to learn about this place. I'm telling you, it's so freaking good. If you like cult stuff, read this book. It's so good. The stories are shocking. I gave it 5 stars. It's amazing. Then I read another memoir called Almost Braun. It was good. It was kind of a downer. I didn't love it, if I'm honest. Basically, the premise is it just kind of details her childhood stuck between multiple cultures. Her father is Indian, her mother is English, and she's American, and just essentially what it was like to grow up like that and be immersed in so many different cultures and have different expectations put on you. Her parents also had a not very happy marriage at all, and the trauma from that, and it was just kind of a downer of a book, and like I didn't love it. I'll be honest. I gave it 3 stars. I think it's skippable. Sorry. Okay, then I listened to with Eric on a drive somewhere, I don't even know, Every Heart a Doorway. Is that what it's called? Every Heart a Doorway. Yes, it is the first book in the Wayward Children series by Seanan McGuire. Oh my gosh, I loved this book. This book is such an interesting premise. It's about children who have experienced magical lands, okay? So like think this first book, Alice falling down the rabbit hole and experiencing Wonderland, right? It's about what happens to those kids when they come back. And what happens to them is they have all these mental problems and can't cope. And so their parents send them to this boarding school where they have teachers who have experienced similar things and help them process and work through their trauma and their desires to return to the lands they may never get to go back to. It is so creative. It is so like weirdly like morbid and gothic feeling. I love the vibe of these books, and they're really short. So it's the only one I've read. I want to read the whole series. There's like maybe 12 or 13, 15 even, and they're all about different kids, either coming back from their land or going to their land. And I'm telling you, so good. You should absolutely read this. It's called the Wayward Children series, and it is so freaking good. I think I gave this one 5 stars. I read, and I'm so happy I finally read this because it's been on my TBR for so long. I read The Personal Librarian, which is all about the woman who worked for JP Morgan and what it was like basically growing and creating his library. It is so incredible. It's a fictional retelling, but this woman was real, and a lot of the beats in the book are known or rumored things about her. So essentially, she is a Black woman, but was fair enough to be able to pass as white, and she spent her whole illustrious career pretending to be something she wasn't to protect herself and, you know, advance herself in the world. And it is so good. This is one of the best books I've ever read. Everyone should read this book. I loved it so much. JP Morgan, if he was anything like the character written in this book, that man was crazy. But man, I freaking loved it. It was so good. So definitely read The Personal Librarian. Okay, and then lastly, I just finished Accomplice to the Villain. Wait, Accomplice to the Villain? Apprentice to the Villain? Yeah. So it's in the Assistant to the Villain series, which I thought this was the last book, but it's not the freaking last book. She got us at the end. I was so mad. So this is the 3rd book in a series. The first book is Assistant to the Villain. The second book is Apprentice to the Villain. And this 3rd book is Accomplice to the Villain. And it is so good. I love this book series. It is, if you like romance, but not like overly crazy romance, but also a very like whimsical fantasy world and vibe, mixed with like so much humor, this book is for you. It's about a magical land that has a notorious villain, and our main character is a super cheerful, joyful character who, under weird circumstances, gets a job as the assistant to the villain of this magical land. And as you could imagine, chaos ensues. She's incredible at her job. She drives him absolutely crazy because she's so bubbly and rolls with the punches and doesn't really care about his villainy. And it turns out he's not as evil and devilish as the world thinks he is. And there's a lot more layers to her as a character and her family dynamics, and There's a lot of bad things brewing in the land. The villain may not actually be the villain of the story at all. It's just such a compelling, like unique and very creative series that also has such complex characters, very well written, very like witty writing. I love when writing just makes me chuckle because it's so smart. I've given every single one 5 stars because I just love reading them. I love diving into that world. Cannot wait for the last book to freaking come out. I'm gonna be so mad. It's probably like a year or 2 from now because this one just came out. But man, that's the book that finally like got me out of my reading slump, and now I've been like doing better at reading. I'm currently rereading the Throne of Glass series. After I finish the last book of Throne of Glass, then I will be on to my ever-growing TBR, which I guess we should talk about real quick just here at the end of this video. All the books that people have told me to read that I've seen have come out, new releases that I just haven't gotten to this year that I need to just like marathon the end of the year. Maybe I can read like 70 books at the end of the year and just absolutely smash my goal out of the water, but something tells me that's not gonna happen. But here are some of the books I'm most excited about reading on my TBR. Everyone is Lying to You, which is apparently like a trad wife murder mystery. I'm into that. Don't know anything more about it, but I like the sound of it. Problematic Summer Romance, which is Allie Hazelwood's new book. I did not like her Not in Love book, which I believe this is like the second book in that little series, I guess you can call it. So I'm not like super jazzed to read this, but I have heard that this one is better if you didn't like the main character of Not in Love, which I did not. So I'm giving this one a chance for sure. Project Hail Mary. My brother keeps telling me that I have to read it because it's one of the best books he's read in a long time, he said. So I'm excited to read that. It's a sci-fi book by the same author as The Martian. It's about an astronaut. I don't know much more about that other than like it's pretty top of my list because my brother's like, you have to read it. Next to Heaven, which is another book that I'm really excited about reading. I don't know if it's specifically Mormonism that's the religion in this. I think it's like a fictionalized version of maybe Mormonism. It's basically like a Keeping Up with the Joneses story where everybody seems perfect, very like Stepford Wives-esque, kind of White Lotus-y, but under the surface things are crazy and unhinged, and that's all I really know about it, and I'm really excited to read it. I don't know exactly what I'm getting myself into, but it sounds really good. Oh, okay, I really want to read it's not a memoir because it wasn't written by any of the members of the band, but I want to read Making Rumors. Excuse me, I have an itch on my eye. Sorry if this is like weirding anyone out right now. Me just staring deep into the camera and itching my eyeball. Oh my gosh, I need to be done soon because my voice is also getting hoarse. This is gonna be a long video. Making Rumors, which is about, you know, making of the Rumors album, Fleetwood Mac, and I think their breakup, so I'm very interested in that. Hamnet is another one I really want to read. It's apparently like a Shakespeare retelling maybe, or reimagination of the story of how Hamlet, the play, came to be. I think it's a love story about 2 people and they lose their son named Hamnet, and then the father writes the play Hamlet. I'm not quite sure other than that, but I know there's a movie coming out that looks so freaking good that I really want to see the movie, so I want to read the book before the movie comes out. Same with Project Hail Mary. Apparently the movie's coming out pretty soon too. Oh, We Solve Murders. I'm really excited because that's Richard Osman's new book, and I love the Thursday Murder Club series so much. So I cannot wait to read his next series, which this is the first book in his next series, so I'm excited. Okay, Great Big Beautiful Life, which is Emily Henry's newest book. I'm excited to read. I've heard mixed reviews about that. Apparently it's like kind of gives Seven Husbands of Evelyn Hugo vibes, which I loved that book, so I'm interested to see what that'll be like. But also in that same vein, Say You'll Remember Me, which is Abby Jimenez's newest book. I'm excited to read. There's only 1 or 2 of her books that I didn't like absolutely love, so I'm excited to read this one. And then lastly, Atmosphere, Taylor Jenkins Reid's new book. It's hard to say. That's my TBR. Hopefully I will just like kick it into high gear for the rest of the year and get out of my freaking book slump and find some more 4 and 5 star amazingness. So cheers to that. Thank you very much for watching this video. That's it for now. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.